So clearly, this isn't a weekly vlog because those are now weekly lives. I can't thank y'all enough for at least a good five of y'all popping up and like showing a brother love every now and again. So I do appreciate that. So yes, the weekly vlogs are now weekly lives. Will actually still try to make videos every now and again. I'm trying my best to like tone down on the shorts because while I am aware that there are people who are actively trying to pursue just agitating me, like I also realize that like I'm steering away from what I actually want to do because I'm too busy being angry about other things. So I'm gonna try to mellow out with those. I can't stress enough. I'm gonna try to do it though because I am still angry. um, but um, but I did have a question that just it's been burning a hole in my head forever. So I grew up in a conservative city, not necessarily a conservative household, but I guess you could say so. My upbringing is definitely right wing leaning, so to speak, and I guess that's the reason why I challenge them so much is because I understand their perspective, and I just think it's kind of dumb. But like one of those things that I think is kind of dumb is like growing up there was this whole idea about like masculinity and manhood being like this peak thing that was just like the most greatest thing ever. And if you're a man, then you have masculinity, and masculinity is the greatest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? But like obviously, if you ever asked anybody what masculinity was, they would tell you these fake non-answers like integrity and handling your business. But in reality, it was just stuff that would make you attractive to a white guy by 1950 standards. So, so it was that stuff, right? But obviously, growing up in that environment, there was a lot of propaganda about masculinity, and one of the biggest things that they would promote when it came to masculinity is what's what I'm looking for? God, I forgot. It's a cigar. Like like if you're like obviously muscles and a mustache and body hair and like those were like the things that made you a man back in the day. It was muscles. You had to be like at least a good couple of inches taller, but it was always a thick mustache, muscles, and like body hair. But also a cigar. I never understood a cigar because when you're growing up in a red state and like people are like people as a joke are being homophobic, then you basically get conditioned to believe that anything that's lengthy and cylindrical is the forbidden object, and if you put that forbidden object to your lips, you're committing the forbidden act. And that was how that was back in the day. It was just like anything. To put this in perspective, there used to be kids used to chew on pencils back in the day just because of, anxiety and stuff like that. So kids used to chew on pencils. But if the wrong person saw you chewing on a pencil, they would be like, "Oh, you chewing on that forbidden object, aren't you?" And it would be like, you know what I'm saying? So, because like homophobia was a joke back then. So and like if we're measuring masculinity back then by like standards of like what white guys in the 1950s found attractive back in the day, then I like it all goes back to why the cigar. The white guys in the 1950s didn't probably like. I'm pretty sure there was one thing that white guys in the 1950s didn't like is something that is long, thick, cylindrical, and dark colored. And you're telling me that people putting that to their mouth is masculine? I like I'm not saying this I'm not saying this to challenge anybody's like sexuality or anything like that. If by all means, if you prefer that kind of stuff, have at it. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your mouth or your body or your sexuality or whatever. But it is just really weird that like one of the things about being masculine was cigars. Cause like I say, if it like if this was like the '90s and we were like all fifth graders, cause you gotta also think like I don't know if this is true or not. I don't smoke personally, but like the thing that always like I remember like there would be guys who would give it a kiss before they suckle on it. You know what I'm saying? They'll be like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like it's like it's so it's like masculinity is this weird thing. It's like on one hand it's like the strongest thing on the planet that like is unshakable. Is determined by your unshakable will towards tolerating a whole bunch of like bad stuff. But on the other side of that, it's so fragile that anything can emasculate you at any time. Like if you feel like something is emasculating you, you're supposed to like mention that. So it's like is it strong that nothing can emasculate you, or is it weak that just about everything can? Is it strong so that you actually is it strong so that like you're a man regardless, or is it weak enough that somebody pointing out that smoking a cigar seems a lot like the other thing, with a certain part is like hey man, you shut up. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying it's so weird, man. It's like it's kind of like how being a man is apparently like like this void of emotion, and this void of emotion but an abundance of stoicism, but at the same time is also getting angry enough to get into a fist fight with somebody and win. I don't know. I don't understand how the standards work. But yeah, I need somebody to explain to me specifically the importance of the cigar, because it's like, and also I mean like just smoking in general. Like smoking is bad for you, but it's like it's like I understand that some people need it to like handle stress and things like that. Personally, I would personally recommend something a little bit healthier that might maybe wouldn't do it. But I'm not gonna tell anybody not to smoke. But like I will be like please, it's like just know what you're getting into clearly. You know what I mean? That's my advice to everybody nowadays when it comes to just making bad decisions. Now I'm just like, just know what you're getting into. Some people don't, and I'm just like, okay, that's no problem. I'm just saying. But like but it's just the fact that it's like going. But I need to know specifically, like I'm a big fan of etymology now, so I'm trying to like understand how words are and what makes words and what led on to it. And now I'm just sort of asking, like now I'm just asking myself, like, who said that this was going to be the like who? How did the cigar go from just being this thing that people smoke to this symbol of male prosperity? Because to put this in perspective, I don't think I've ever seen a woman smoke a cigar. You see what I mean? Like I'm not talking about like in real life. I've seen women smoke cigars in real life, but I'm talking about like in propaganda and fiction. I don't hear, it's like or rather, if you see a woman with a cigar on like a TV show or a TV commercial or something, it's not because like it's not like some sort of treated as some kind of elegant symbol or nothing. This is them sort of exhibiting masculinity, so to speak. I also don't believe that masculinity is real. I don't know, because like nobody can tell you what being masculine is. Nobody can tell you what being the difference between masculinity and femininity is. It's all just vibes, man. It's just wild. Like I know I talk about this subject a lot, but it's only because of the fact that like there's this guy, right? And there's this guy on it's either is on my Instagram or Threads, and he is just like being so annoying and so agitating. And he clearly thinks that he's this alpha male because he's bald and he's fat, and he's bald, he's fat, he has a mustache, and he smokes cigars. He's a cigar aficionado, which I feel like we really need to stop. Like we really need to like stop with the words those words like that used to mean something back in the day. Esquire used to mean something. CEO used to mean something. Aficionado, stuff like that. Those words used to actually mean something. Now you got like these regular guys who just hear about the word like one time and just start using it all the time. Like, are you really an Esquire? It's like you're cosplaying as a successful person, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like cosplaying as a successful person can only get you so far if you're not actually successful. Cause somebody is gonna come. That's like me. That's like when I ask like when a wrestling fan comes up, like when a wrestling fan pops up on a wrestling video or a wrestling clip, and they always talking about like the actual wrestling that goes along with it, and that they don't know what they're talking about. So I ask them questions about wrestling in the clip, about the wrestling in the clip, and they're like, "Oh, well, you think you just know everything, don't you?" It's like, no, I don't. These are simple questions. How do you not know? How do you know enough to talk about this stuff, but you don't know enough to talk about this stuff? I'm just asking. Like, it's like going, don't be a fan and cosplay as somebody who's working on a thing. You know what I mean? It's it's like, if you're a fan of something, then if you're enough of a fan of something, I definitely recommend pursuing it, going for it, trying it out on your own, because that way, you can improve something. If you have this much interest in something, then you can improve it with your own perspective. But you got people out here you got dudes out here, like, like saying, I'm a connoisseur. Spell connoisseur. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why I'm very, I like, I like to present myself as a fairly simple dude, because like I know that words have degrees. I know that something can be good, something can be great, something can be spectacular, something can be magnanimous, something can be gargantuan. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that there's levels to words, just like how there's levels to um um like, owning things, and levels to being, like, I know that there's levels to certain things, and it's just like, I kind of wish that everybody understood the levels, just to sort of retain the information, just to sort of like retain the relevance of these words, instead of just throwing them out all willy nilly. Like, I know guys who they call themselves, I know guys who call themselves like gangsters, right? They call themselves gangsters, and they call them, and they say word and they call them and they say words like, they use words like guapo, right? Which is fine. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. But it's like, they call themselves young guapo, and they are a physically, they're like really, like, the only reason why you're saying these words is because they sound good. Do you know what? Like, young and handsome, which is fine. You can call yourself handsome. There's nothing wrong with calling yourself handsome. But my dude, you're 40. You're not young. Spelling young with a U. It's just like there's a lack of there's creativity, and it's like there's creativity, and then there's symbolism. You know what I mean? I feel like everything that people should do should have meaning, and it just shouldn't be like just. It just shouldn't be like, oh, this is just here as a placeholder for something else, or this is just here because I like, it could just be because you like it. But I just really wish that more people would just say, oh, I did this thing because I like it. Because at some point somebody is going to like question, why are you doing this? Why did you do this thing? Or why did this have to be this way? And I just, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a stickler. Maybe I'm being a killjoy. That's fine. But it's just like, it's wild to me, man. Like, but yeah, like, back to cigars though. It's weird. Like I said, he's like, I'm a cigar aficionado. Okay. Also, cigars are expensive. Like, how do you? It's like, I understand that cigars being expensive. That kind of means, like, if you can afford one, then you're like this financially successful person. But it's like, there's so many other expensive things you could buy that could also make you seem like a relatively successful person. Like, I'm not gonna look at a guy smoking a cigar and be like, wow, that guy is really successful. I'm gonna look at a guy smoking a cigar and go, haha. I'm gonna be like, it looks like he's committing the forbidding act with the forbidding thing. Because that's my upbringing. Like, that's how I grew up. But yeah, like, I need somebody to explain to me like how cigars became like this symbol of peak masculinity and peak awesomeness, and oh, it's such a great thing. Like, I need somebody to like just give me the info on that. Just like, I don't get that one. Like I say, because like I say, my upbringing, if it was long, cylindrical, and you held it against your mouth, you were getting roasted for that. Like, I'm kind of, on one hand, I'm kind of glad that we've outgrew that, but on the other hand, I'm kind of confused as to how people are still homophobic, but you outgrow that specific, but like not homophobic enough to say something about that. It's like, people are still homophobic. They're literally actively like voting for laws to make life miserable for the LGBTQ community, but you can't look at a guy smoking a cigar and be like, LOL. Like, it feels, it's weird. That's a weird thing to me. It's almost like they're trying to normalize one thing while demonizing another, and they're literally the same thing. And that's one thing about masculinity, man. It's like, masculinity is basically about trying to create two concepts that are polar opposite of each other and combine them together. So like we love women. We also don't like women. Masculinity. Like what? That makes no opposites ain't attracting here. What is going on? No, that's masculinity. It's just weird. It's weird. It's weird. Masculinity is weird. Also, it's unreal. It's not real. Masculinity is not a real thing. All right. I'm gonna be heading out once again. Thanks again, by the way. Y'all have been very, for all of the stuff that I've had to go through these past couple of days. For all of the annoying people who decided to pop up just to try to make my life miserable in this on here. It's like the fact that there's more people who are actually supporting me than not supporting me. It feels good. It feels really good, and I appreciate that about y'all. Like, thank you and thanks again. Love, peace, and I'll see you guys on Monday.